Hello and welcome back to Misinformed with me, your host, Leon Iduo, or Leo and Iduo. However you feel like saying it, you know what? Who am I to tell you how to speak? You're the one who learned the language. We're here with our second episode of this series. We'll be covering stress and the moon. Mostly the moon. And do remember, this is for entertainment and perhaps just a hint of education. It's hard to say in this day and age. But you'll learn something and be informed of something or another which may have debatable use and value to you. That being said, let's get into it. So, we all know the moon, or at least the concept of it. And let's start with what we know. We got to work our way into it, make sure we're all on the same page first and foremost. So, the moon. What is it? It's a ball. End of the day. Yeah, now we could debate the reality of if the moon exists another day. That's not what this is about. As far as we know it as humans, the moon is a ball, specifically made of rock. All right? It floats around the earth. It has different phases. It reflects light from the sun and whatnot, and that's part of what the phases look like and how they're represented. But we also know that the moon is supposed to control the tides and different things related to Earth and various cycles. That we have an interesting relationship with our moon on a cosmic scale. Now, the moon supposedly rotates around the Earth. The Earth thus rotates around the sun, the whole thing, right? Now, what if I told you that there was a reason that the moon stayed where it was? It stays in that rotation. We'd be led to believe it's gravity. And hey, fair enough. Gravity holds it there. It's this invisible force that keeps things together. Same thing that keeps our planet rotating around the sun. But I believe that the moon is really just a stress ball for the Earth. Now, I know what you're thinking. Leoniduo, that sounds a little presumptuous, a little preposterous even. And you'd be right. It does sound a little preposterous. But let's think about this for a second, all right? The moon does bear, admittedly, a rudimentary but striking similarity to a ball, being spherical. You could, of course, argue that the Earth has the same resemblance. So, not a great point. I acknowledge that. But we believe that gravity holds the moon in place, don't we? That's a force that we can't see. It's just holding it there. And what else does gravity do, you might ask? Well, we know that the Earth has gravity, and it pulls things around, specifically together. It's a bit of a crushing force, as a matter of fact. This is why planets tend to become spheres, because that constant pressure from gravity on all sides compacts them into balls. Now, pray tell, what do you do with a stress ball? You crush it. You squeeze it. The life out of it. Would that not be akin to the force of gravity? Now, I feel like I need to clarify here. The moon is under the effect of its own gravity, for the most part. That's what makes it spherical. The Earth is under the effect of its own gravity. That's what compresses it. But the reason it stays in orbit, that's because the gravities of one another pull on each other. But that's not what's compressing them. No. A greater sense of gravity from the mass therein of each celestial body is what compresses them individually. So I would imply, one might say, that I believe that we're being misled a little. And I believe I may have made a little bit of a misleading statement. For while the moon and the Earth may be inextricably related, I do not necessarily believe that the Earth uses the moon like a stress ball. I believe that the Earth pulls on the moon, similar to one, and applies some amount of pressure, as we could see by the Earth flexing its muscles with the waves and the tides in various forms in relation to the moon and all that effort it's exerting, just like when you stress a muscle, how that muscle moves under your skin. Same thing, oddly, isn't it? But I would actually argue that more so than being the Earth's stress ball, perhaps it is a cosmic stress ball. For you see, there is the assumption that gravity comes from a coagulation or a large assembly of mass, a large concentration, thus pulling the masses further together and compacting them even more so. Now, that's an interesting thought, and I believe there's some credence to this. But it's a little odd, don't you think, that the moon manages to go exactly where it needs to be, and that the Earth does the same. No. I would propose that there are gravity wells intentionally in these positions so as to support the foundation of this stress ball system. Because the Earth needs its stress ball to keep everything in check so it doesn't go out of control. Because if we didn't have a moon, tides would go crazy. Now, I would suggest that a cosmic source, let us say, is responsible for placing this convenient set of gravity wells in our system, so that the Earth would always have a moon, a stress ball. Because we know, once upon a time, the Earth didn't have its stress ball. And you know what it did? It blew its top a little bit. It was going a little crazy. It was a little uninhabitable, one might say. And then, well, little Jimmy from down the road, Jimmy Neptune or something, threw a rock, threw his funny little ball at the Earth. It hit the Earth in the forehead. The Earth didn't like that. It kind of exploded a little. And got really hot again. Not to say that it was, terribly cold. It was pretty cold, actually. But it got really hot again. And let me tell you something. You've been to California? You've been to Texas in the dead of summer? It's like 80 of those. At least. All right? Unpleasant. And the thing about that is, the ball hits the Earth, it bounces off, but it does take a few teeth with it. All right? Takes some chunks with it. Takes a nice little of the skull with it. And then it gets caught in the gravity of Earth. Earth catches it, and it's like, you're not getting away from me, some bitch. No, not after that one. And it does not throw Jimmy Neptune's ball back. No. The Earth keeps it for itself. And it uses that ball to take out all the stress and rage that it has to work out its issues so that it doesn't go crazy again. And it doesn't always work. At an ice age, I would argue that was a little... Earth didn't handle that one that well. Earth didn't handle that one that well. We've had a lot of volcanic eruptions. Mount Vesuvius, for instance. The whole Pompeii and whatnot. Not a great one. Not a great one. But imagine how bad it would be if the Earth wasn't relieving its stress regularly with the moon. And that is why I believe it is extremely concerning when you don't see the moon in the sky. That means that the Earth had to repair its stress ball. It can't relieve its stress. That's a scary time. I don't want to mess with the Earth. I don't talk to the Earth when it's one of those nights, all right? When I don't see the moon, I ain't having a conversation. I don't litter normally, all right? For legal reasons, I don't. But when I don't see the moon out during the night, oh, brother, I pick up someone else's litter. I'm suddenly a public servant, all right? Because I ain't trying to catch that heat, all right? I ain't trying to Mount St. Helens or whatever, you know what I mean? I ain't trying to catch that, all right? Yellowstone National Park can stay over there, all right? I'm good. I'm in my lane. I'm a good boy. I'm a good fella. I gotta be a candidate for why the Earth shouldn't kill us, all right? Because let me tell you something. The rest of my people are not making the best attempt here at convincing the Earth. So, someone's got to step up, all right? And it seems fitting it be me, given my intellectual prowess. No, that doesn't feel genuine. My out-of-the-box thinking. Yeah, that's honest and pretty correct overall, when you think about it. And I gotta say, I think it's important. I think it's important. I think it's a shame little Jimmy Neptune didn't get his ball back. You know, I've been that kid. I've thrown a ball and I've never seen it again. I never saw it. I lost a balloon once. Never saw it again. Never saw it again. I hope someone has it and is having a great time. But you know what? Jimmy Neptune doesn't need it as bad as we do right now, all right? Maybe one day in the future we can build him a new ball, throw it back, you know what I mean? Give him a little, you know what I'm saying? But, like, not now. Not now. We need it more. I am so sorry, Jimmy, but we need it more. It's just how it is. And, you know, it's just a situation of what can you do, you know? The Earth's got to relieve that stress, just like the sun has to relieve its stress, you know? The sun has a bit of a different method. You see, instead of using the planets as stress balls, which it kind of does, it kind of like tosses them around, catches it on the other side, tosses them back around. That's the solar system. But the main way the sun relieves its stress is by shouting a lot in these funny little things called solar flares. Familiar? They send out waves of radiation intensely. Just forgive the doubling down, radiate across the solar system. A lot of photons, a lot of energy. Let's just leave it at energy. All right. It is potent. It hurts a little, allegedly. And you know what? We're lucky that we have some planets between us and the sun to really take that heat off us. We got enough problems, but we also got a magnetic field, so that holds it back too. You know what I mean? Our planet said, you know what? I got enough problems to be stressed about, and he held up an umbrella and just like and blocks the sun. You know what I mean? Gotta keep that radiation away. We got enough of that down here. All right, we're a little crazy with it. Other planets, they get radiated from the sun and shit. We make our own home brewed. All right, we don't need more. We don't need any more radiation coming at our asses, all right? We good. We good. So, that moon being a stress ball for our planet is intensely important for our ecosystem because it allows our planet to just make sure that it doesn't need to blow its top or anything like that. You know what I mean? Because if our planet started shouting like the sun, again, Mount Vesuvius moment. It's not pleasant. And sometimes it still happens, you know? Sometimes Earth gets a little, ooh, I'm so mad. Ooh, I'm so angry. Ooh, and then it just goes, and then, you know, kablooey, that's a town or two, or more, sometimes, unfortunately. Or sometimes, you know, the Earth just slaps itself upside the head, you know what I mean? Maybe it throws its stress ball too hard, you know, or it throws its shoulder out when it tosses it around. Something like that pulls a muscle, and then a continental shelf moves a little too much, and you got a tsunami, which isn't pleasant, also not great. So there's those. Sometimes the Earth gets a little too embarrassed, you know, maybe on a cosmic scale, I don't know, it had a bad hair day or something, right? And Mars looks back at it and is like, you dumbass, what you doing with that goofy ass haircut, buzz cut looking motherfucker, bowl cut ass, you know what I mean? And then we get this little thing called the Earth blushing. It's a wildfire, and that's sometimes good, usually good, but when there's too many of it, because the Earth is just too embarrassed for too long, it creates a little, it's called a situation, where it's not good anymore. And sometimes the Earth, you know, gets a little teary, gets a little sad, gets a little, you know what I mean? Because it wishes it didn't lose part of its skull to the moon. And then we get flooding or intense rains, which again, not bad. But when it gets a little too far, that's when we have our problems, you know. Not to mention when it just causes some real bad situations because then the Earth's face moves and then we get mudslides. It's not great. We need ourselves a calm, relaxed Earth, but not too calm because if its heart stops beating, so does every other part of the planet because that would shut down the magnetic field. I am talking about, of course, the core of the Earth being the heart, so that's not great either. But you know what? Just this nice little happy medium of relaxation. That's what we need, you know, like a spa day where it's like, ooh, yeah, working out the, I'm getting my back stretched, you know. It's extremely painful but pleasant also because you're resetting your joints and everything, but you're also stretching your bones, muscles until your bones crack and whatnot. which, little painful, but overall a good thing. Whereas, if it's too relaxing, you might die. That's debatable, one might say. Some might say entirely false. But you know what? I really said it, so who's to blame me? That is why I believe it is important to realize our planet's under a lot of stress, Believe me or don't, but you better believe that the moon's important and that the Earth needs it so that it doesn't get too overwhelmed. Be it emotionally or tidally. It's your decision. I can't convince you one way or the other, but I hope you've learned a little something. Possibly entirely false, or possibly entirely correct. It's your decision, really. But I will see you next time on MisInformed.